What is up, guys? Welcome back to the Zach and Pat Show. I'm Zach.
I'm Pat.
This is the show about manhood, fatherhood, entrepreneurship, and the mentality it takes to be successful at those things. And every so often, we'll probably sprinkle in some real estate advice because that's what we do. You know, life can be tough. We can lose our identities and struggle at times. This is a podcast to let you know that you are not alone. And so if you're someone out there struggling with those things, this is the show for you.
That was good.
Is that all right?
That was good. You got it.
All right. I was a little, I feel like my timing was a little off, but
No,
working on it, guys. I'm really working on it. I'm trying not to look at my notes anymore, but
no, it sounded good. It's book club day.
yeah, book club day.
Yeah.
We're doing it.
And we, book of the month for January was Atomic Habits. This is a book. This is my third time reading it. And every time I always pick up something new. Obviously different parts of life, different things are going to stand out more than others. And sometimes you just forget, you know?
Oh, 100%.
And I think, and now going back through, like, this time I read it and I took notes and highlighted it, where before I just kind of read it. My memory is not nearly as good as it used to be. So I think that taking the notes and all that, it definitely helped with remembering things and jotting them down. And now I can go back and reread the Cliff Notes that resonated with me. And, you know, it was great. I enjoyed it and took a lot from it. But let's start. Give us an overview. Go ahead. Tell us what your thoughts were and how it came across to you and what you saw as like your description of it.
Yeah. So, this is not the first time I've read this as well. I think I've read it one other time. I think my first time doing 75 hard. But like you said, I think you get a little bit more, you pick out a little nugget every time that you didn't pick up on the time before, or maybe you just didn't remember it as well. And you're like, oh shit, there's so many things in this book I read that I was like, oh yeah, I forgot about that. That's so true. I fucking do that again. But I remember I got like off of, right after I read this book, the first time, I definitely was implementing a lot of the habit or the kind of like tips and tricks in here, that he shows and teaches. So, but really the gist of the book, man, is, first of all, identifying your habits is a huge thing. Like being able to identify what they are and figuring out ways to increase or decrease these habits that you're doing. Super, super beneficial book though. I gotten a lot out of it. I think like one of the first chapters, like I'll look at my notes here, was all about like creating systems versus goals. And that's something that I think I should definitely focus on more. Like I felt like this past year with like my real estate business, I was very like goal oriented, like goals. Like I wanted to hit that 50 transaction mark, and I ended up falling a little bit short of that. But and like this year, I do have like a numbers goal, but I'm not gonna let that like consume me like I think I have in the past.
Mm-hmm.
I really want to focus this year on like building my team and like kind of starting to build, people around me so that I am not the one, outdoing like all the stuff in the field so much. So like it'll free up more of my time where I'm kind of playing more manager role like down the line. Obviously, like I have no plan of stepping out of production anytime soon, but like I want to set myself up so that like, 5 to 10 years from now, like if that's something that I want to do at the time, like I have that option. So I think falling in, like figuring out what those systems are and like really systematizing my business so that it can be replicated to the people like that I'm bringing on my team, I think would be huge. What was some things, in that chapter, they also talked about, small improvements over time, like add up, and that's something I found to be super, super true, in a lot of things in my life. But, like there's this analogy that I like to use, like when I'm teaching jujitsu, and it's like when you first start training jujitsu, like it's like, I always kind of say it's like almost like a new language that you have to learn.
Mm-hmm.
And like, man, that through white belt, man, you're just learning the alphabet. Like a couple years in, you're forming sentences, and, by black belt, you're writing essays, and that's kind of how I would describe it. But I I talk about like getting better at this. It like takes a long time to get really good at it, but like I say, it's like building a mountain out of layers of paint. Like you're every day, you're just throwing another layer of paint down, and eventually you got a little speed bump, eventually you got a little hill, and eventually you have a mountain. And so I think that this applies to this, but like you're slowly, incrementally building up over time, and over time, and you just building up these habits is you're going to eventually create a mountain.
Yeah,
And
and they I think that's one of the things he says is like towards the end of the book, it's don't like when you're looking at your habits, don't get so zoomed in that you see all the flaws, but make sure you're looking at yourself in the mirror. He's like, don't look at the individual peaks and valleys of the mountain, but the mountain as a whole.
yeah, look at the range.
Yep. And
Yeah.
so, but no, I mean, same thing, the systems, like as soon as you start the book, smack dab in the face, it's like why goals suck. And that's the thing is like, you're constantly, I know for me and, we have managers on our end and stuff like that. And, as a business owner like yourself, you are setting goals for yourself. And it's like right here, goals are at odds with long-term progress. Goals restrict your happiness, like literally talking shit on goals. And, it's like, and he says the goal, whether you win or lose, like if you're a winner or you're a loser, your goals are still the same.
Yeah.
A loser has a goal of winning the championship. So does a winner. What's the difference? The process and the systems. And that's something that I'm like I said, I've read it 3 times, but it's like, shit, like, why do I keep forgetting it's about the systems and the process in place to get to that end result? Because, and it goes into is like, you could eliminate goals altogether, but if you keep your system, you're going to end up at having the same end result as you would as if you set goals. So yeah, no,
Yeah, there was actually, something I did differently with this book when I read this book than what I've done in the past is I never I never go through the highlighter like when I'm reading, but this time I did. And I highlighted this line, and it was the purpose of setting goals is to win the game, but the purpose of building systems is to continue playing the game. So that was definitely that was like one of the first chapters, I think, but I was like, went back last night, kind of like the preparation for this, and
right.
really like looked over some shit, and I was like, oh, that was definitely one that like really stuck with me, but I kind of almost forgot about it because it was like one of the first chapters.
Yeah. Well, and that's and what he does that's so great with this book to make it easier. I mean, it's not easy changing your habits and like getting to that point where it's not easy, and it takes time, and you got to be patient with it. But he did a great job of breaking it, and he called it his 4 laws. So you got to make it obvious, make it attractive, make it easy, and make it satisfying. So, and there's different inverses to those too. So like how to get rid of a habit make it more difficult to do that bad habit. Like
keep the junk food out of the house.
Right. Exactly. Or you watch too much TV before you go to bed. An easy one would be, all right, hide the remote, or like put the remote in another room to where you actually have to leave the room to get it to come back. Something that's going to inconvenience you. Or take it a step further, take the batteries out of the remote, put them away. So that way, every time you want to watch TV in your room, you got to go get batteries, put the batteries in, anything to make it convenient. He's like, or just take the damn TV out of your room. That's the ultimate way to get to it. So he gives both the inverse as well as like how to make it like easy or attractive, but then he gives it the inverse of it too, like how to get rid of the bad habits, right, and by flipping those laws on the other way. And yeah, I mean, all about getting 1% better, all about improving, and basically can just riding that train. But I also loved how later in the book, he talks about how habits can make you lazy because you're not, if you develop these habits, it becomes monotonous. You have to, and it's the thing is you have to continue to change your habits. Like you may get to that point where you've gotten 1% better every single day, like a basketball player when they start being able to dribble with their opposite hand. Like that, after a while, it becomes natural. Now, all right, now we move on to the next phase, and you're constantly changing and improving. So,
right, or like the person who like is just wants to start building the habit of reading, and all right, they started out with all right, I'm going to read one page every day. And it's like, okay, well, how long are we just going to read one page every
Right.
day? You know, it's like you
Right.
need to eventually, it's going to take you a long time to finish a book.
Right. You're like,
You
make
wanna-
it, that's, I mean, that's part of the make it easy.
Right.
You know, like don't go out and say, I'm going to do 100 push-ups a day.
Right.
I'm going to do 10 push-ups a day.
I'm going to start with 10.
I'm gonna start
you
with 10.
know, 3 days later, maybe I'll bump up to 15 or 20.
Yeah.
And a couple weeks later, I'm doing 50. And eventually I'm doing working myself up to 100. But, yeah, no, that's a great one. One of the next chapters I really, really liked was that this was a habit that I remember when I read the book the first time. This one was like, oh, like one of those like aha moments, like, oh, I fucking do that. I need to stop doing that because, and I definitely did for a while. I remember like thinking about this long after I read the book, but then I think it's something that I've definitely fallen back into and I've ever since reading this chapter, it kind of reminded me of it again, but like identifying or what was it? How you identify can shape your habits, like where you like say like, oh, I'm not a blank. I'm
your
know,
identity,
yeah,
personality.
Yeah, like I would love that because like I find myself like, oh, I suck at this,
Yep.
and it makes me like think I suck at this
Right.
or whatever, And I've just definitely fallen into that in the past, like saying, oh, I'm not a this. I'm not a runner.
Right.
I don't like to run, but I'm like, no, I'm not a horrible runner. I just don't like to run.
Right.
It's
Right.
like there's a difference there. Like, but I can run.
Right. But and it's not, instead of I have to run, I get to run.
I get to run.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Changing the way we speak to ourselves. And when you say I have to, that doesn't sound appealing.
Mm-mm.
But when I get to,
I get to work out.
I get to work out. I get
to go to the gym at night and strangle my friends.
Yeah. Exactly. So yeah, I mean it like I said, it's a great book. And there's a lot to learn from the book. But the biggest thing I took from it is in one of the chapters where it talks about you have to do it.
Mm.
You can sit here and read the book and we can talk about the book all we want, but if we're not going to put action behind it, nothing's going to come of it. Like
you have to be a doer, man.
Right.
You're not going to get anywhere in life just speaking about it. You need to actually go out and produce. You need to go out and make things happen. You need to go out and you need to. How many times I've talked to people, whether it's real estate investing, whether it's jujitsu, whether it's what, but like I've got a lot of friends that keep telling me like, oh man, I'm gonna come take one of those jujitsu classes one of these days, or I need to get in there. I want to try that, and it's like, okay, show up, man. Every Tuesday and Thursday, I'm there at 6:00. I teach the rookie class. Like, come in. I'll take one of my classes. I'll show you. Like it's not that scary. And how many people that have actually taken me up? I mean, there's several people out there that definitely have. And I always say that whenever they do show up, I'm like, bro, you have no idea how many people tell me that they want to come try this shit and they never actually do it because I think they're scared of coming in. It's an intimidating thing coming into a martial arts gym. I mean. Or like real estate. How many times I've had people tell me that they want to either get the real estate license or when they want to start investing, but they never actually go out and do it. It's like, man, you don't have to. I mean, you definitely don't want to do it without any preparation at all. But like, you can read every book that's fucking about real estate investing out there, but until you actually go out and buy that first property or do that first deal, make that first wholesale or, go sign up for the class, take the class, pass the test. Like there's a lot of shit that goes into it and you're not going to get anywhere without actually pulling the trigger and doing it.
Yeah. And I'm trying to find that chapter or the chapter that it talked about. But yeah, I mean, it just talks about just, like I said, just do it, like, yeah, you can sit there and plan and plan and plan. And I think the story that they tell is in the book is, that there's a teacher has one group of people that has to go out and take half the class is to take as many pictures as they possibly can.
Yeah, I love this part. Yeah.
And then the second group just had to turn in one picture, like their whole grade. Well, it was at one grade at the end of the year to submit as many pictures as you can.
Wasn't it the best picture? Whichever student had the best picture.
Was it the best?
I think it was. There's two groups of students. I'm sorry, I don't mean to cut you off, but I'm pretty sure it was two groups of students, and half of the students were able to submit as many photos as they wanted.
Yes.
And then the second group could only submit one photo. And apparently, but the final grade was on the best photo.
Right.
And I think all the best photos came from the people that had a bunch of shots.
Right. Because they were out there doing it,
getting the reps,
exactly, reps. And the people that did just turned in just the one picture, they
afraid to pull the trigger.
They weren't getting the practice. They weren't, so they were just there kind of looking for the perfect picture instead of trying to take as many pictures as possible to get to learn how to make each picture better. And I mean, it's just a great, lesson to learn. Like you're not going to be great at first, and just keep working and doing the same thing, or if you're taking pictures, keep taking pictures and learning from what you did from the previous one. And again, like I mentioned before, with making calls on Mondays, my first one's not going to be nearly as good as my last one, because every time I'm going to try and make it better and better, and I get more in a rhythm, and I keep practicing and practicing and practicing. And from week to week, my calls from last week aren't going to be as good as the calls from this week. So it's just get the reps in.
Yeah, get the reps in. Just don't be afraid to pull the trigger. Get the reps in, man. Like everybody fucking sucks when they first started something. I don't care what it is. When they're, the first time you picked up a baseball, I bet you weren't throwing it 90 miles an hour. Like the first time I stepped on a mat, I wasn't, doing very well.
No.
It was the only sport I've ever been good at is like these grappling sports. But I found out it wasn't really, it's just because I didn't really ever like any other sports. But like when I finally found something I wanted to get good at and I actually like applied myself, I'm not unathletic. I just never really tried. I never like spent time like trying to improve and like spent the time like fucking studying, like I say studying, but like watching fucking instructionals, watching tapes, watching, people YouTube videos on how to do moves better, like this guy's technique, how he applies this. Like I never did that for any sport I'd ever done in my entire life. But then like when I found a sport I did like, and I actually started like working on it to get better at it and like wanting to improve, like you can get better at this.
Right.
Like,
that ties into the fourth law of the book, where it's not everybody's talents and skills are going to be
right.
The analogy that he used in that one was Michael Phelps and then
runner.
Don't know how to pronounce his name. But the runner.
Yeah.
They had
the same height, right?
No, different height. Michael Phelps 6'4". This runner
like 5'10".
I don't even think
5'9",
5'8", 5'9".
But they had the same size legs.
Yes,
right.
And
like
so
from the waist down, they were like the same.
Right. And so for a runner, obviously he's built because he's got these long legs and he's smaller, and as a runner, you want to be smaller for long distance running.
Right.
And as a swimmer, you want to have a longer torso and arms
to propel
yourself forward. So he's like, you could take these two gold medal athletes and flip them in sports, and they're not going to be as good because Michael Phelps is not built for running. And this
other dude's not built for swimming.
He's not built for swimming. So it goes back to what you said. Like you found that thing that you're really good at that
makes sense for my body
right.
type. Yeah. I'm not
exactly.
I'm 5'7" and 170 pounds. Like I'm not going to be I'm not made to play basketball.
Right.
Yeah.
And, when we were talking about on the last podcast, when Nick was here and we had Murph on and he was talking about getting into Muay Thai.
Yeah.
As a taller guy, I don't know if me rolling around on the ground is going to be as advantageous for how I'm built as maybe because Muay Thai is more like standing up and punching and kicking and stuff like that, where I can control the distance better.
You got longer reach
because I've got a longer reach and longer legs. That might be better for the way I'm built.
Yeah, so I would argue with you there, and I could say you're longer and you can grab them, but I
would not want to take a kick to the head from you, though.
Yeah, no, that's true. Or a punch, or a punch from somebody who can throw 90 miles an hour. So maybe I'll agree with you there.
We'll have to when that time comes. We'll have to see. I'll give them both a try, but I think rolling around as someone that's 6'3", trying to take on someone that's smaller, I'm not going to have the shiftiness in grappling that. I mean, being big, I'll sit on top of you if I can get on top of you. If I can get on top, you're done.
Yeah.
But getting there is going to be rather difficult when I've got a little spider monkey climbing all
Right,
over me.
climbing around. I'm going to be on your back in a
Yeah.
second.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Where
Well,
if I
and-
can throw a kick to keep that distance away, that's going to be different. So
Yeah, well, especially after you start doing all these CrossFit workouts as leg,
Oh.
dude. I'm fucking proud of you, by the
Mm.
way. I'm fucking pumped that you signed up,
appreciate it.
and I'm excited that we're gonna be fucking being able to work out together on a regular basis.
yeah, I got to get those fundamentals done.
Yeah.
Yesterday was the first.
Yeah, how you
and
feeling?
I'm not as sore as I was from the
First
first
day.
workout.
Yeah.
Well, and like I said, it was a lot lighter weight. Just getting used to the workouts and all that. So
Yeah.
I mean, I'm definitely sore, but not like I was after like actually heavy lifting. But it was awesome. Had a great time. Really looking forward to getting into it. I should be done with my fundamentals
Next week or something.
Yeah, and ready to rock and roll and
Sweet.
get
So
into
maybe by
it.
the
And
second half of next week, maybe
Yeah.
we're doing a workout together or something.
yeah, so
Yeah,
it'll
dude.
be fun. And that's another one of these things too that I wanted to talk to you about is it talks about having an accountability partner.
Yeah.
When signing a habit contract.
Yeah.
And talking with you and then Rachel and then have something like that in place. They talked about setting up fines for not complete, stuff like that. So, that's something that I want to do with you
Let's do it. Yeah.
for me as an accountability partner when it comes to bettering my habit of getting into the gym and working out on a more consistent basis.
Yeah.
I mean, and eating right, because ultimately that's I've always been active. I've always worked out, but I love food. And so I was talking to Rachel about this and so she's got me tracking she's got me
Tracking your macros and stuff?
tracking what I'm eating right now, just
See where
so
you're at.
we can sit down and develop that plan. Cause I mean, in my business, it's a lot of
Yeah, taking people out to lunch
and happy
drinks and happy
hours.
hours.
Yeah.
I know, bro. It's tough. Well, I mean, I've been doing this dry January, so I guess today is technically recording this the week before. It's
Yeah.
January 31st today. So, yeah, I mean, I've done dry January this whole month, and I mean, I'll be honest, that's not that hard for me though. I'm not a big drinker, but I do feel good, and I've done this carnivore diet the whole month, and I mean, I definitely. I mean, I really like this diet. I feel good on it, but
Yeah.
I do kind of miss some carbs for sure.
Yeah.
Some French fries sound pretty awesome. But
What's the first meal going to be?
I don't know, man, because I know it's gonna fucking wreck me.
Yeah.
So like, I know the second I'm gonna enjoy it, it's gonna be some 5 minutes of mouth pleasure, but then it's gonna be about like 4 hours of fucking yeah, I'm gonna be shitting my brains out. So
Oh.
I don't know. I mean, it'll probably be like a pizza or something. That's definitely what I think I've been craving more than anything. I know you, Murph, you've been doing low carb for a while. Would be the first thing you'd eat?
The last time I went all in on the no carb thing, I immediately it was during a transformation challenge at First Form, and the first meal I had that was like carb induced. Me, Will Grumke, the Joe brothers, and a couple other fellows. We went down to a little spot called Gus's Fried Chicken.
Oh, I know where you're at. Yeah, hell yeah.
Oh, I got me some spicy fried chicken, mashed potatoes. I tell you what, though, dog, when you go for a long period of time where you fuel yourself off fats, which is what you're doing still, you are going to blow up like a balloon.
Like
your stomach, you'll be bloated as
yeah.
all hell.
Sure.
Like this gaseous release of just like carbs hitting your digestive system. I took OptiGreens 3 times that day. Machine gun farts for like a day straight. Get ready.
So I got that to look forward to. But I'm gonna do it.
Yeah.
So I have no self-control.
Well,
No, I guess I do have self-control. I've been sticking to this diet, but it'll be good.
what's the biggest thing that you've noticed since doing this?
Well, I've lost a little bit of weight, but honestly, not that much because like I'm still eating a lot. I'm probably eating but I'm not tracking like what I'm eating. But if I had to guess, I'm somewhere in the ballpark of like 2,600 to 3,000 calories. I mean, I'm eating so much meat. Like yesterday for lunch, and it was a mistake because I was at training that night. I was definitely like feeling it in my stomach. I mean, I ate a pound of meat at lunch.
Oh, wow.
So I go to these barbecue places and I'm like, oh, I'll just order a pound of brisket and I'll only eat half of it. And then like I eat half and I'm like, hungry. and then I eat it and then I eat like a quarter pound more and I'm like, well, it seems stupid just to save that little bit. And then I eat the whole thing and then I'm like, fuck. And then I drank like 3 cups of coffee on top of that. And by the time I got to jujitsu last night, my stomach, I was having some bubble guts for sure. Just with all like a pound of brisket in my stomach and like several coffees.
I'm sure your
Really.
partner loved you. But on that
Oh
one.
yeah, for sure. For sure. Yeah, that was, yeah, but anyway,
So-
back to the book.
Yes.
All right. Oh, hey, this is a chapter that I liked. Habit stacking. Like
Yes.
when I do X, I will do Y, you know,
Mhm.
and like putting two things together, like something that you like already do. Like, all right, well, when I put my shoes on, then, you know, like I think the thing he talked about in the book was when he got home from work, him and his wife would like immediately change into their workout clothes and like not have the option to not go to the gym. Like if they throw the fucking PJs on and go sit on the couch and watch Netflix, like, you know, they're not going to the gym then. You know, if you come home and immediately put your shoes on, put your shorts on, and you know, get ready to go to the gym or take your pre-workout or do whatever it is, then you're kind of like obligated to go at that point.
Mm-hmm.
I remember back when I don't really take anything pre-workout like I used to. But I remember that was a thing that I would always do back in the day, that like, man, if I took that fucking drink, I was working out, whether I was, no matter what I was doing, if I went up and the gym was closed, my fucking ass was doing push-ups in front of it or something, you know, I'm doing something, I'm getting a workout in,
Right.
you know, I took this fucking drink, I'm not wasting it. So that I do like the habit stacking.
Yeah,
That's
that
definitely
was-
something I think I could implement much better, you know, like been really trying to be better about cleaning up the kitchen, like before I go to bed, like not having any sort of mess in the kitchen before bed. It's
Mhm.
something Tina's probably rolling her eyes right now. But that's something I really want to work on. I've been trying to maybe do a little bit better, but honey, working on it and gonna do better there. But I have this bad habit of, you know, like we've said, I know you and I both like a kind of like our alone time at the end of the night, where, you know, it's the only time of the day where we're not, you know, having our phones buzz, or, you know, kids are asleep, Gina's asleep. It's kind of my time to like hang out. Well, I do have a habit of falling asleep on the couch watching TV. So, um, you know, sometimes if I fall asleep, like the other night, I, you know, fell asleep and like probably like, I don't know when I exactly fell asleep. It was probably like around like 11:30 midnight, somewhere around there, and then woke up on the couch at like 3 a.m. and, you know, just wanted to stumble upstairs and go to bed. And there was definitely dishes in the sink still, you know, that I told myself I was going to do before I went to bed. But by the time I fell asleep, and, you know, you kind of want to like not wake up all the way, you know, you ever do that where you kind of like do like the squint walk,
Mhm.
and you kind of like start like, I'm not
The
I'm
Biden walk.
yeah, I'm pretending I'm still asleep. Yeah. Yeah. So that was something I want to work on. I want to get better about, like just keeping the house cleaner. It's hard when you have kids, like as
Oh,
we've talked about. but-
Absolutely.
As a guy, though, there's no sleep better than the fall asleep on the couch sleep.
Dude, I love it. Like,
I don't like waking up in the morning on the couch, but the same night, you bet.
oh yeah,
Yeah.
dude. I sometimes you just hit it so hard, and you're just never more comfortable than when you are right there.
On the couch, yeah.
Church.
Yeah, it's good.
But yes, for me, like I said, the gym, getting more consistent with the gym. And then, you know, I've been talking about how I want to add additional daily non-negotiables to both personal and work. And it's going back from the beginning and doing the little things that are going to make those habits. Like reading this book is like, okay, this is how is going to make it easier for me to implement these things into my day. So like, you know, I was talking about adding so many calls per day to agents, or financial advisors or whoever for networking. But it's like, all right, with my schedule, how do I work that in? And it's again, maintaining control of my schedule, eliminating, you know, the habits of, okay, instead of taking, you know, a little bit longer shower, I'm going to cut that shower time by, you know, or I mean, I take pretty quick showers, but like, you know, there's times where after a workout, you just want to just relax and
Yeah.
you're in there for like,
sit in the hot water.
yeah, for about 15, 20 minutes, you know, instead of wasting that time, cut the shower down to 5, get back to work and pick up time that way. And just different things like that, you know, a lot of our business, like we do have to do stuff with social media. but making sure that like when it comes time to that I need to do those things, like putting my phone away and out of reach for the things that I need to do without my phone. You know,
I've got a bad habit of like pretending like I'm working when I'm on social media.
Yeah.
You know, like, oh, this is for work. Like, is it really, Zach? You're
Right.
sitting here watching, you know, animals eat other animals videos, and you're watching, you know, the new
Right.
trailer for the new,
Right.
what's that new movie? The new Roadhouse movie? Have you seen
Oh
it?
yeah, I saw that.
Dude,
That
it
looks
looks
badass.
sick.
That's awesome.
I'm excited. I'm really excited. Apparently, it's coming like straight to Prime
Yeah.
in March or something. So that'll
Bad
be-
sign.
Why?
Straight to anything is a bad sign. I'm sorry.
Nah.
Dom.
I don't know. I think I get
Halloween
excited.
Kills was a follow up to a good Halloween sequel movie. It and Halloween Ends. Straight to nope. I'm out.
Huh. I don't know.
I hate to be the bearer of bad news, man, but all this shit that they keep rehashing all our old stuff. Like,
Yeah, I don't know. I'm excited
about
because
Patrick Swayze.
yeah, I guess not, but
Mm.
I'm excited to see. I mean, Jake Gyllenhaal. I mean,
Yeah.
I think I don't know. I'm excited about it,
I am.
but I'm
Just to
I'm gonna watch
right.
it.
Just
You
to
can
see
poo
it.
poo over there in the corner all you want,
We'll
but I'm gonna
revisit
fucking
this.
watch it.
We'll revisit this and we'll see if Murph was right. And if we were,
You know what we should do? You know what I've always wanted to do?
Hmm.
Or fucking play it up here and fucking do a podcast and watch it. Do a
Yeah.
fucking fight companion type.
honestly, that could be a thing we start doing.
I would love to do that.
That would
I've
be
always
fun.
thought that like where, you know, we just
Like a
kind of talk and comment on shit. Like some of my favorite podcasts are the Rogan Fight Companions, where it's like they put on, like, you're supposed to sync up your TV and put the fights on at the same time, and then like it's just like them talking about it.
Mhm.
But they're always funny podcasts. You don't actually have to watch the fights to like listen to it. It's
So
Right.
we
just-
are turning the podcast into my Instagram page.
yeah,
Reacting to shit.
No, I would like that. I mean, I think it'd be cool. But yeah, I mean, that'd be a fun thing.
Reacting
to
to
watch.
things a little different topics of
Nuance.
react.
Yeah, I was gonna say
of
a little
reacting.
different, Murph. It's a little different.
Follow me at the Daily
Yeah.
Murph.
Anywho, back to
Yes.
the book. Change your environment.
Yes.
I liked that one a lot. That one thing I've noticed, ever since we started doing this podcast, is since we made this room, like this was my office that we're in right now, but all that was in here was like this desk over here and like that chair, and like I didn't like have anything on the walls. It was just a fucking mess,
Mhm.
and like I never used it. But now, like, I find myself hanging out in here a lot, and like this has become like because all I need to work is my laptop. So like I
Right.
just kind of I find myself working out of coffee shops and stuff a lot of days. But now, whenever I'm gonna work at home, I've been coming in here, and it's actually like kind of like makes me happy to be in here. You know, it's like a
Right.
space. It's like the one room of the house where I've got like my shit, our shit on the walls, and
Mhm.
this is a cool spot. It makes me
Right.
happy. I feel good working in here.
Right.
You know. And so that's one thing that I've done recently, where this is like, oh, now I've actually kind of got a spot at home where this is like my dedicated like work spot. And it's also obviously our podcasting spot. But I mean, I just sit in this chair and pull out my laptop and I'm working. You
Right.
know,
And
sometimes I'll throw some music or a podcast on the TV and just
Yeah.
fucking go.
well, and the same for me. So like I got my office at the house. But what I am going to start doing now is, I mean, I have a lot of weekly meetings and usually over coffee. So I'm just going to start instead of wasting the time driving there, driving back. Again, that's part of that, you know, being able to pick up time to do the things that I want to do. I'm just going to work from those spots, which, you know, change of environment is, you know, the distractions aren't going to be there that I have at my house, that I can just sit there
Yep.
and focus. Because when I'm at home, I get a lot of work done, but at the same time, like I can look out the door and be like, those fucking kids destroyed this house. I got to go
Yep.
clean this up, or I got laundry to do.
You
or
find
this.
reasons
Yeah.
to not work.
Exactly. And I think that, by doing that, it's going to eliminate any distractions and allow me to be more efficient in some of the things that I'm doing. Plus, I mean, driving, I mean, granted, St. Louis, you can get anywhere in about 25 minutes to 30 minutes. But still, if I'm constantly driving all over the place, I mean, like yesterday, for example, you know, I had my first workout with Rachel. I had a meeting in the morning, and was luckily I had the meeting close to where I needed to be for the workout, and was like 5 minutes down the road. Went and worked out, and then I got done with my workout at like 1:30, but my next meeting wasn't until like an in-person meeting wasn't until 4. But I had 7 phone calls to make between finishing working out, I'm like, I don't have time to run home and all that. I'm going to go straight from the gym, change in my car.
Yeah.
And I just sat in the parking lot of Billy G's and made all my calls and did everything I need. I mean, hotspot on the phone.
Yeah, dude.
And,
I use the hotspot on my phone so fucking much.
And I mean, it's almost like I want to become the Lincoln mortgage lender, you know, like,
Yeah.
instead, like the Lincoln lawyer, like get somebody to drive me around and just like, so I can work.
Yeah.
And I can get to different places because I mean, it's amazing how much you lose from driving all over the place.
Bro.
That's why I
Preaching to the choir.
I could never be an agent.
You are fucking. You're
amount,
I'm like, bro, you don't. I forget you don't work like this.
No.
Like you forget. I forget that that's the big difference between our businesses here. So I'm like, I leave the house and like when I leave the house in the morning, it's like I better have all my shit because I'm not coming back here till it's dark.
Yeah,
you know.
And that is like, I do not have that. Yeah. I can just sit down and I can be there all day.
Yeah.
And so that just eliminating those.
I've got my spots around town.
Yeah.
Like, all right, if I'm in this area, this is my spot that I go to. It's always based on like noise level. Cause that's huge for me. Cause like, I don't want to, like, I hate going to a coffee shop. That's like, cause I mean, that's usually where I work out of, either like coffee shops or like something like that, or like a restaurant, or I'll just fucking find a parking lot and park my car and hotspot it, you know, but, which I like a lot, honestly, cause I can just kind of, I feel like it's my little safe spot, you know, my little space, you know, that's why I love my truck, but, and it's nice and roomy, but, there's like all my spots around town because that I like that aren't super loud,
right?
Because I need to be able to make phone calls because I mean that's what we're doing most of the time,
right? It's kind of the point now. It's almost like I'd rather just call an Uber, so at least I can get some work done in the Uber.
Oh yeah, I have Gina drive a lot. She's like, you know, because she'll be like, well, and if I'm driving, I'm like, you got to play real estate agent. And you got to text this person back, or you got to, you know, like you just, all right, well, he said this. What do you want to say? And it's like,
right. and that's it. But I did that in the past, but like for me though, it's a lot of personal financial information that
a little different.
Whether
from
my ex-wife or dating somebody, like, no, like you're going to need to drive. I'm going to sit in the passenger seat. And so I can get some work done. And then once I get it done,
you can be present wherever you're going.
Yeah.
You know,
then, yep. So road trips aren't bad though. I usually get quite a bit of work done if I'm not the one driving, just because I can get it all done, knock it all out in the time frame that we need to do it to get in between or wherever we're going, and you know, it works out pretty well. So
I just on road trips though, I do like being the one that's driving.
I do too. I love driving.
I do too. Like I love like long drives. It doesn't bother me at all. Like I find good podcasts and just rip it, or done like books on tape, or just having good conversation with people in the car is always fun too.
Yep.
You know, like I can't tell you how many times I've been in, like if some of those conversations were recorded, those would be hilarious to like listen to, you know, like you think about some of those times and you don't even really think about them as they're happening. But like as you get out of the car, you're like, man, that was fucking fun.
Right.
You know?
Yeah. I mean, it was it summer of 22. I went down to Florida, Fort Myers, the girl I was dating for a wedding, and I drove the whole way. It was all, stopped in Atlanta and then drove the rest of the way there. And then on the way back, drove from Fort Myers to Nashville, stayed there for a night, and then drove the rest of the way. So it was like 17 hours of drive time. And I loved it. I had no problem driving.
Yeah, as long as I got a good supply of caffeine, I'm good. Because every once in a while, after you kind of get that like there's a name for it, but it's like some sort of like the road will kind of hypnotize you. And you kind of start like falling asleep a little bit if you stare at the lines for a while. I'll definitely get that kind of bad sometimes, but nothing a cup of coffee won't fix,
right?
You know.
So, but yeah. So all right. So 4 laws we went through. So law 1 was make it obvious. So like right there in front of you, put it, you know, if you're needing to, basically, if you're trying to do something, have it right there in front of you. Like like you were saying, go to the gym, make it obvious. Your clothes are right there as soon as you wake up, or right in front of the door. Like you can't walk past it without seeing it and getting dressed and going to the gym.
Right. Well, like for this book, I mean, I was trying to build this habit of reading again. I was like, well, I'm leaving this book in a spot where I'm for sure going to see it and it's going to make me pick it up. I'm not going to put it up in a Sorry, Murphy. Scare you.
Yeah.
I'm not gonna put it up in a room where I'm not gonna
Right.
grab it. Like I've been making this habit of, all right when I wake up, I walk downstairs, turn on a little lamp, and sit on the couch and read. And that's like been my little habit. And I'm like, all right, well, I'm gonna leave this book right here because it's right here, easy for me to access.
Yep. So for me, it was at night. I was reading at night, so it was right there next to the nightstand. There's no way I couldn't have not seen it because my glasses were sitting on top of it. So like I had to take my contacts out and then come sit down, and I had to pick my glasses up off of the book. So it was right there. It was obvious that this is the habit that I'm doing, and it's great. It did it every night. Picked it up and read a little bit every night, and was able to kind of create that habit. And I already have the book that we're reading next, which we'll talk about after
After we're done with this one.
at the end of the show. But like I've already gotten started on that just because I've already created that habit of reading and reading for a while.
Well, Gina gave me shit this morning because I slept in a little bit because I've been waking up early to read before Calvin wakes up, and I knew that I didn't have the book, but it was supposed to be coming today.
Mhm.
And so she's like, "What? You didn't wake up and read today?" And I was like, "Well, I don't have the book yet."
Yeah.
So
And it's not technically.
I was like, "Well, I'm just gonna
February.
read it tonight." So
Yeah.
I'm getting my pages in today, but I'm like, I'm gonna sleep in an extra 20 minutes, and
Right.
So she was giving me shit about that. So I'm
and
gonna read it tonight.
Yeah, and then law number 2 is make it attractive. So, like you were talking about habit stacking. So continue so if you want to create a new habit, be like, all right, well, I'm going to read this, then I get to do something that you enjoy, or, so I'm going to read for an hour and then I get to enjoy my alone time. And so just doing something almost like a little reward to yourself after you do the habit. I'm going to work out. I'm going to work out. Then I am going to get a massage.
Right.
Just something to reward yourself to make that habit stand out more and more.
Yeah. Well, I like that a lot. And then I think this was another chapter, but kind of the same subject, but it was how to make the habit irresistible. Like, and what really fascinated me was like so I studied psychology in college. That was like that was my minor. It was my major for a while, but then I switched it to my minor. But I've always been like really fascinated with like psychology and just how the brain works. But they went into like one of these studies that they did with mice, the dopamine driven feedback loop without they took like the dopamine receptors out of mice, and they like stopped eating, they stopped having sex, they didn't crave anything, and like within a few days they died of thirst. And then so what happened else? They realized that another thing with dopamine was that the dopamine is not released just when you experience the thing, but it's also the anticipation of experiencing the thing. They like did the comparison of like it was a gambler. Oh yeah, it was a gambler. Whenever they don't get the rush when they like win, but they get the rush when they place the bet. It's like the anticipation of you winning is what you're craving, which I thought was super fascinating. But another part that we've talked about on other shows also, but it was definitely kind of emphasized here was the role of people around you when developing your habits, like being around people that are gonna like help you enforce the habits that you're trying to create. Like if you're trying to stop drinking, you stop hanging out with people in bars and people that drink, and like I think that's I've found that over the last several years as I've kind of gotten in more into this like real estate space, and I've gotten really into jiu-jitsu too. It was all kind of around the same time. I started not hanging out, or not like hanging out with my buddies that like all they want to do is drink and stuff all the time. It's not something I do as often. I mean, don't get me wrong, like I'll hang out with those guys every once in a while and have a great time, but definitely not something I do often, just because it hinders the things that I really, really enjoy doing, like real estate and jiu-jitsu and hanging out with my family and all these other things that I do now that I just would rather do than drink and party with my buddies.
Well, and they broke it down, and what was it? Imitating the close,
imitating
the many, and imitating the powerful. So like imitating the close is our social environment. It's no longer an individual pursuit, but it becomes like a we pursuit. So if you're with a group of people that are wanting to drink, then we are going to go drink. If If you're with a group that wants to work out, you're going to work out. It's not so much an I thing, but it becomes a we thing. And then the imitating the many, again, is you conform. It was people conform to the tribe or larger groups. So,
I mean, we're herd animals.
Right.
That was something that I wrote down that I thought was like, oh, duh. Like we came from these small tribes.
Right.
Is where there's that Dunbar's number that you can only remember like 100 to 150 people, like people's names at a time, because we used to be in tribes of 100 to 150. So that's like the amount of people
Max.
that you can supposedly like remember their name. So we grew up in these or not grew up, but we human civilizations developed in these tribes, and to be cast out from, you just want to fit into the tribe.
Right.
You don't want to be an outcast, because if you were an outcast or you're cast out of the tribe, it was
Right.
basically a death sentence.
Right.
And so we want to imitate these people around us so that we fit in.
Right. And there's good and bad. So it's making sure you choose your tribe carefully, because in the book they talk about in college where the professor brought the people in and he had a group of actors basically coming in and stating the wrong answer. And there was that one person that was like the test subject. And when it was like a handful of people, like just a couple people, that person kept their individual identity and they didn't conform. But once they started adding 10, 15, 20, 30 people that were giving that wrong answer, that test individual, it was, I want to say like 75% of the time then, was now also conforming that wrong answer was the actual right. Or like they were saying that's the right answer, even though they knew
Right.
that it was technically wrong, but they were conforming. So it goes to show you that you need to make sure you're picking your tribe properly. Because if you start conforming to the wrong group, that's where bad habits come into play. So, and then imitating the powerful, obviously, we do it. We've talked about it. We look, there's people that we look up to
100%.
that we want to
be like,
for
sure.
And so, we're looking at the things that they do and to be successful, because everybody wants to be successful.
Right.
Well, it used to be that way. I don't know so much anymore, but
yeah,
but yeah, I mean, at least the people that are driven, and we're looking at people that are powerful and what they've done to become successful. So,
right. Where are they at and how do I get there?
Right. Exactly.
There was a roadmap, you just got to follow it.
Yeah. So, obviously, like I said, making sure when it comes to imitating and doing, and conforming and wanting, to be, part of that group, that it's a group that that's going to lead you towards better habits and good habits. Yeah. So one of the things too, that I want to work on and it talks about how to fix the causes of the bad habit is that you have to learn what the underlying desire is. So like for me, like chewing tobacco.
I was going to say, are we going to bring this up? Is this the elephant in the room, Pat?
Chewing tobacco. Yeah. It got really reinforced by things with baseball.
I mean, let's talk about being around the tribe. I mean, you're in that tribe, bro.
Right.
Like,
and so, yeah. And
what percentage of baseball players chew? Because it's a big
I mean,
percentage.
I don't know nowadays because they've cracked down on a lot of that stuff. But I mean, when I played, a majority.
Yeah, I would say like 75% of people,
probably,
something like that.
Yeah,
it was pretty. Throw a ballpark number out.
It was pretty high. Yeah. But it wasn't so much like
part of the culture.
Yeah, it wasn't so much doing it because other people were doing it, but like there was nothing better. You got an early morning bus ride. You're gonna hop on the bus in the morning. You grab your breakfast, drink your coffee, and then you hop on the bus and you throw in a dip and you just relax. So it's like dip became associated with relaxing. And that's still something that I have to this day is, and I said it earlier before in a podcast about chewing, where I stopped because I was using coffee grinds, and then I became addicted to caffeine and was having like heart palpitations because I was just so taking in too much caffeine. And so I stopped by dipping. I started dipping again. And that's what relaxed me, because that's where the habit was, and it just reinforced it. So now it's going back and be like, all right, how can I change my mindset of relaxing to get rid of chewing tobacco?
Yeah.
And so, what did I have down here? cigarettes weren't an issue. It's not that
I used to smoke cigarettes back in the day.
yeah. But yeah, I mean, it was just basically,
Wow, that's something I don't do anymore.
Address the motive of the habit. So like, instead of dipping to relax, I take a long shower or I chew a piece of gum.
Yeah.
Something like that. And it's finding something to replace dip, but giving it meaning of being relaxing, or distract yourself. Cause like I read another book with Josh Hamilton about his story, baseball player that got addicted to meth and all that.
Right.
And he was talking about counting to 8. He's like, if you can count to 8, by that time, you'll usually forget what it was that you were, craving and move on to something else. So it's like, maybe instead of chewing, if I feel like I got to throw in a dips, distract myself enough to where I can do that and do like 10 push-ups, things like that. But ultimately finding that underlying issue of why you do a bad habit can also help you create a better habit to replace it. So
Do a habit stacking.
yeah, habit stacking. Exactly. So, and I think we touched on this. So it says walk slowly, but never backwards. Coming up with a perfect plan is never the best idea. There is no perfect plan. Just do.
Do it.
Yeah.
Just pull the trigger.
Yeah. I have in here, take fucking action and start doing.
Yeah.
So-
One of the last things I kind of had written on here was human behavior. It follows the laws of least effort. So like, and I hate to keep bringing this back to jiu-jitsu, but I'm gonna do it. So it's something again. I'll show well, Kyle does a really good job, or my coach does a really good job at explaining this. But follow the path of least resistance. There's always an option. There's always an option that someone's giving you. There's always a counter to whatever they're doing. So it's okay. Well, if they're putting their arm this way, if they're putting the weight this way, I go that way, then they go this way, and it's just having the right answer for what problem is in front of you. And I think that's the same thing here, is just gravitate toward the thing that's easy and the thing that makes the most sense. Like, don't make it harder on yourself than it needs to be. If you are, like, I think one of the examples that they used in this was, like, for example, if you're trying to get into the gym and work out more, like, don't join a gym that's like really inconvenient for you to go to. Like,
Right.
join a gym that, it's on your way home, or it's right by the house, or it's convenient to your lifestyle to make this happen. We're
Right.
trying to build this habit. And I think that was something and then again, it also kind of went into like creating an environment that makes it easier. So like I thought about, again, I've got, like I was just saying earlier, I like using this room as kind of like an office now. Like I've created a nice environment where I feel comfortable. This is like a cool hangout spot. It's where we do this podcast. I've like, taken a lot of phone calls in here now, and it makes me feel good to be in here. So decreasing those friction, one of the other things they talked about was like the friction in that same chapter, and increasing the friction on bad things, like making it harder
Right.
to do the bad things, making it easier to do the good things.
Right.
So,
But I mean, guys, if you haven't read the book, I highly recommend it. Zach, I'm sure the same. But I think to end this, I'm just going to read the last page of this, which is great. This is a continuous process. There's no finish line. There is no permanent solution. Whenever you're looking to improve, you can rotate through the 4 laws of behavioral change until you find the next bottleneck. Make it obvious, make it attractive, make it easy, make it satisfying. Round and round, always looking for the next way to get 1% better. The secret to getting results that last is to never stop making improvements. It's remarkable what you can build if you just don't stop. It's remarkable the business you can build if you don't stop working. It's remarkable the body you can build if you don't stop training. It's remarkable the knowledge you can build if you don't stop learning. It's remarkable the fortune you can build if you don't stop saving. It's remarkable the friendships you can build if you don't stop caring. Small habits don't add up, they compound. That's the power of atomic habits. Tiny changes, remarkable results.
dude, fucking boom.
Boom. Mic drop.
Yeah.
Book drop.
Yeah, it was a damn good book.
Yes.
Yeah, so we're gonna continue with our habit that we have
Started.
developed this month.
Yep.
And we're gonna keep reading a book a month. At the end of the month, we're gonna do a podcast all about the book. And Pat, our next book is drum roll.
The next book that we are reading is How to Talk to Anyone: 92 Little Tricks for Big Success in Relationships. And this is supposedly the modern day version of how to make friends and influence people, because I mean that book was written in the early
20s,
1900s
I think it was written in
and
the 20s or something.
30s,
30s.
something.
Dale Carnegie, right?
Yeah, times have changed, and Dale Carnegie said, "Hey, smile and smile at somebody and be kind." Well, in today's society, smiling at somebody and being kind is kind of looked at as it's not as genuine. So we're gonna brush up on how to communicate with people and different things like that, and see how that works, and kind of maybe even you've read how to make friends. It's been
honestly,
a while.
I think that when looking back on it, that was like might have been one of the first like personal
Right.
development,
Same here.
self-help kind of type books that I
Yep.
read, because when I was getting into the like the restaurant industry, like with like those management type
Right.
roles, someone gave me that one. I was like, oh, read this. This is what you need to know. And but now I'm excited to read this one as like a modern version of it, because I remember reading it at the time. This was probably like 5 or 6 years ago, and I was like, oh, okay, this is kind of dated, but I'll read it. You
Right.
know, like okay, duh. It was a lot of it was like duh, you
Right.
know. But yeah, I'm excited about this one.
Same here. So
Cool, guys. Well, hope you guys enjoyed the show. Remember, follow me on Instagram at Zach_Fagus. Follow Pat at STL_Mortgage Nerd. We will see you guys on Thursday with our next episode. Remember, tell a friend, like, share, and subscribe. See you guys next time.
See ya.